I think you kids probably know the drill. If you're tuned into Facebook, and it is the time that you think it is, which is a Wednesday at a 7 o'clock p.m. prearranged date with Destiny, Eastern Standard Time, of course. You're looking at Facebook, and you see a record cover sort of being wobbly, shakily, woven around and waved about in front of the camera. You know that it is time for Tent Talks Tunes, baby. Yeah. And look at this. I got a guest. A guest today. Me, Mr. Antisocial, the guy who always does Tent Talks Tunes as a solo act. I got a guest. And if you've read the descriptions, if you know anything about anything, then you know that my guest is Leslie Wimmer of Open Records and Open Books and Records. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes. Before we start digging into the vegan meat of the matter, I want to see some people commenting. Let me know y'all are there, because we know how persnickety and funky and twitchy the internet is. Sometimes I go live and the settings are all set for private, which means that nobody can see it. So I'm just going to make sure that people are out there actually watching before we say anything of any import, because that's important. This is what I have to do every single
Yeah,
day.
I know, because sometimes, like one time when I was watching you, it went into this like endless loop until I went away and then came back and everything was fine.
It's the limits of the technology.
Yeah,
We're just so not into it.
It happens.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll switch browsers here.
I see people appearing.
Mr. Known on the Facebook as Malinowski. I know him as Joe from the great Willimantic Records in Willimantic. See, we got a record store guy here. Check it out.
Good,
good. Nick Sampson's there. Ooh.
Flash, yay!
The artist known to this day as Flash.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about you boys.
Yes, you. Yeah, very important.
Very important that you stay tuned. And if we get anything wrong about your story, correct us, please.
Please, yeah.
We are here to be corrected.
Yeah.
Whew, so, yeah, my gosh. Hey, Pear from Sweden. What's up, dude? How's everything in Scandinavia? We're dealing with the, what?
Well, Scandinavia, I mean, Iceland, sort of.
Oh,
yeah. That's sort of my connection. But anyway, go ahead.
Hey, there we go. Jillski's tuned in right now.
Jill!
I'm wearing my one and only copy of the Broken Talent t-shirt made by Big Santo himself.
Yep, Jill, another alumna of Open Books and Records.
Yeah, that's right.
She played a part.
She took over after I
There you go.
had to move to Connecticut.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get all that.
We'll get to all of it.
Randy Ruffner's there. All right, we're looking good. We're sounding
Yay.
good. All right, cool. Just the briefest, littlest, teensiest, weensiest bit of an intro for Leslie. If you all have seen Tent Talks Tunes more than once, you've probably heard Leslie name checked. And now you know. Now you know, and you're going to find out just who this person is. She is the one. She's right here. She's sitting right here next to me on a chair in my humble little studio.
Yeah.
She taught me how to run a record store.
Wow.
You did. And it's not even hyperbole or an overstatement. When I was merely a snot-nosed young punk, literally, in South Florida in the summer of 1985, you hired me to work behind the counter at Open Books and Records.
Because I knew he was an honest lad, and boy, did he love records, and I just knew everything was going to work out. It was so great.
And sure enough, and yes, it did. And she taught me
sure.
how to run a record store from the ground up.
Yeah.
Everything from how to deal with customers, to how to keep books, to how to write a check. I mean, just all this stuff.
All that stuff.
And then when fate
Nitty-gritty.
Yeah. And then when fate intervened and I had to move to Connecticut, I took that skill set and opened up Trash American Style. Yeah. So if any of you people out there love Trash American Style, you're looking at the direct antecedent, the woman who definitely helped make Trash American Style possible. So once again, give it up for Leslie.
Thank you.
Whew, now this is one of those things that could go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It would be kind of fun. Oh, gee whiz, there it goes. Gravity is at work again. It just never stops.
Just took off. Oh, well.
This is live cable TV, public access TV. There's nothing we can do about it. This could go on forever and ever and ever, and maybe it will. But we're going to start today
Okay.
just by talking about the label Open Records.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
Yep.
And oh my God, we could do like a 1 or 2 episodes on the store. I mean,
Yeah, it
the
could go on
Florida
forever.
scene,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
It'll all get woven in.
yeah,
Yeah.
for here and now, we're going to
Okay.
start not just with the label, but with a very specific release.
Okay.
And that is, as we've been teasing, The Land That Time Forgot.
Yep.
A compilation that certainly made my head do a 180 when I first heard it. But in order to really talk about this, we sort of have to talk about the other releases on the label.
Oh, okay. So yeah, our very, very first one was this one, Charlie Pickett. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
I'm
you
getting
go.
it there. There we go. Feeling covered with white light, white heat. Because after all, the Velvet Underground influenced everybody, every band that ever existed past 1970, I think, because
Yeah,
they were in the 60s. So you know.
easily.
But anyway, and here's the back cover. Lovely little thing there. And so this was open one, and we had great fun doing this. And let's see, what did we say for this one? Where being warped is no defect. Yes, I don't know where we came up with that, but I mean it was an homage to oh, my brain just went on slip. Stiff Records. Thank you.
We're gonna fill each other. We're
Thank
gonna
you,
lots
thank
of
you.
blanks are
Yes.
gonna be filled in on both
Okay,
ends
so
here.
that was the first one, and here's the second one. Charlie with that's Gina Tay on the cover there. She should be listening pretty soon if you're not already here. Shout out to you, Gina, Miss Gina Tay, and so this is really a great one. If This
Yeah.
Is Love, Can I Get My Money Back? That was by Charlie's cousin, and Slow Death, which is of course by the Flaming Groovies.
And I'm just gonna jump in right
Yes.
now and say that record right there, Charlie Pickett, If This Is Love, Can I Have My Money Back on the A, with Slow Death on the B, was probably the first ever local record I ever heard.
Cool.
Because Eric Moss
Oh
of
yeah.
the great Radio Free Living Room radio show,
Mhm.
he played Slow Death on the program one night, and I heard it, and I was just like, "What is that?
Oh,
What
good.
is that?"
Came out through the radio and hooked your ear.
Woo, Lord, I think the hook is still in there, as a matter of fact.
Good,
That's what they
good,
call a
good.
hook.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was it.
Cool.
That's what got me into the entire concept of something that was not a major label record.
How did you even stumble across Radio Free Living Room?
That is a good question. I believe that I saw an ad for it in Mouth of the Rat.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you people out there who haven't heard me talk about it before, Mouth of the Rat was a critical, is that a good word to use?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Critical?
I mean, it was one of the establishing papers for our little South Florida scene. It was put together by Dave Parsons, and he hand wrote the whole thing. So that was his handwriting.
Yeah.
And he was very hip to a lot of imports and the Ramones and the New York scene and everything. And so, yeah, we advertised heavily in his paper.
Yeah, Mouth of the Rat was critical. I remember I found my first copy at this record store called Music Makers,
Mm-hmm.
way down in South Miami.
Mm.
It was a free paper,
Right.
and it's like you described. Everything was hand lettered, and I'd never seen anything like
Right.
that before.
Right.
And the front cover was a giant photo of Johnny Lydon with the caption "John Lydon is alive," and it had this fantastic interview about Public Image Limited playing in Atlanta.
Right.
This was
Yeah,
even.
Ted got to go to that one.
Oh,
I had to say.
yeah,
But anyway,
we
worked it out. We worked it out. But yeah, it was all about that. That great show up there.
Yeah, and this was beyond Cream magazine,
Mm-hmm.
as formative and influential as Cream was on my young brain.
Right.
This was better. I mean, this was actually something made in South Florida,
Right.
when nobody was making anything in South
Right.
Florida. And
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, because you still live in South Florida. There's probably nobody making anything in South Florida. Am I being too jaundiced when I say that?
Well, you mean fanzine wise? Gosh, I haven't seen anything like that. I mean, New Times I think is still being published.
Oh wow.
I think, or some version of it.
Hmm.
But fanzines, I'm not aware of.
Hmm.
So,
So there you go.
oh,
Florida
I'm
then.
actually up in Central Florida now. So, people down in Fort Lauderdale, it's you know, um, in South Florida and at Sweat Records or Revolution Records up in Fort Lauderdale, they might know.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody down there can tell us if anything's happening in South Florida, zine-wise or culture-wise, let us know. Miriam, I see you're tuned in. Miriam, welcome aboard, Miriam. Call me, Miriam. We got something to talk about. We got some business to take care of. Give me a ring. You got my number. All right, enough personal business. What else happened on Open?
Okay, then those were our first two singles, and then Charlie Pickett, lover of all blues and live and rock and roll, he wanted to do a live album, and so we did Charlie Pickett and the Eggs live at the Button, and so we did that.
The smoker.
And there's the back cover with all the cute little pictures and everything, and yeah, that was an amazing time doing that. Um, what can we say about it?
Well, I can say that I was looking for a copy of it for years and years and years and years. It went out of print very quickly, and even though I
Yeah.
was living in South Florida at the time, and it was an iconic record, I could never find a copy. You guys only did one pressing of it, then I'm going to assume.
Let me think. We did 1,000, and then I think we did 500 more.
Wow.
So I think 1,500.
And that was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm.
And there's plenty of bootlegs out there now on CD, and Charlie's always been after me to get it reissued on CD or something. But and a lot of it came out on, I think Twin Tone put out a compilation that has a lot of stuff on there too.
It's not the bar band Maximus,
Yeah, I think so.
is it?
Yeah,
It's on some label. I don't know the name of the label, but
No.
there was that really great compilation CD of Charlie stuff.
Yeah, boy, anyway.
Yeah.
And also, all right, I'm not exactly great on all the facts. I do remember some. And then we had fun doing 12-inch Cowboy Junkie A Go-Go, 5-track 12-inch. And this is the white cover. This was the most numerous. And then we did also, I think, about 200 or 300 in black cover with white lettering. So if you have the black cover, that's that's a lot rarer than this white cover one.
Yeah, I remember seeing those around, but they went pretty quickly too. And
Yeah.
that's one, the Cowboy Junkie A Go-Go is one that I went to Open Books and Records to purchase pretty much the day it came out.
Oops.
I'm very happy to say that I was Johnny on the spot
Good.
with Charlie on the record as far as that one goes.
Yeah.
Barry Soltz has just tuned in, aka Barry Soul. Hello, Barry. Welcome aboard. We're talking about South Florida, the place that you, just like me, escaped from. Yeah, it's a good place to be from, as they say. So yeah, okay, that's kind of the background.
Yeah.
You got the label. Maybe why'd you guys do a label in the first place?
Well,
what WTF?
Yeah, really. What was so great about the whole independent scene and everything about having the store? We knew that the store was the main thing that we were starting. I mean, Ted and I were just such great record collectors, and it seemed like the obvious next step to have some sort of independence in our life is to, if we had our own business, doing what we loved, which was music. And so, but being part of that whole do-it-yourself scene and everything, it had so many different aspects to it. We talked about Mouth of the Rat, and there were other fanzines around. Dave Phillips had Borrington Journal. Um, there was a lot of others which my brain will catch up with pretty quick. But anyway, so we knew. So there was all sorts of aspects. There was the store. There was the fanzines. We knew about the radio. Well, we had Eric Moss, and we supported public radio with doing the Radio Free Living Room, which we took from Dave Parsons. That was he named it.
Right on.
And
not to
yeah, go
interrupt,
ahead.
there's probably gonna be a lot of
Oh,
interruption.
please do.
For people who don't know Dave Parsons, Dave eventually, like many of us did, escaped from Florida and moved to New York and became the founder of Rat Cage Records,
Yeah.
who released the first Beastie Boys record, the first Agnostic Front LP, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, he designed the cover for the Bad Brains. Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
the classic Bad Brains logo of the lightning bolt. That's
Yeah.
Dave Parsons from
Yeah.
South Florida.
Maruska, he also went by.
Oh,
Yeah.
so when he would sign Art as MIR?
That's
Maruska.
Yeah.
What does that
I
mean?
don't know. That was one of his aliases.
Wow.
One of his many aliases. But
Wow.
so anyway, so different aspects. Okay, store, fanzines, radio, and of course that led to records. You know, we wanted to put out our own records, and we had gone to the Premier AOR, one of the little places that bands could play, a little hole in the wall along in Hollandale Beach, Florida, along the railroad tracks. And that's where we first saw Charlie Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
And in that first
Mm-hmm.
incarnation, and he, all the kids, were wearing the punk stuff from England at that time, the bondage pants and the spiked hair and everything, and it was just wild. And Charlie came in a completely white suit, complete with vest. It was white from head to toe, and had those squared off toe leisure shoes that everyone's father was had a
Right.
pair, right? So anyway, he was the most punk of all the punks because
Right.
he was like, whoa. Anyway, so Ted and I went, huh, who's this guy? And we loved his music and everything, and Charlie was front and
Oh, sorry.
front end loader.
Front
Yeah,
end
yeah,
loader.
yeah. He would tell stories every now and then about how they would have these contests to see, these machines were huge, and they had these huge scoops up front, and they would have um, contests to see who could pick up the smallest pebble, you know. So great fun.
Nice.
But anyway, so he was making, his father was the foreman of the rock pit, and so Charlie was working out there with him, real blue collar man. He worked really hard, and he was making a lot of money. So he was able to fund his first singles, and so that's really what got Open Records started, and we got our taste of that whole other aspect of business. Now we had to do recording, and well, actually Charlie did all that really, and but then we had to start doing promotions, and later on we got involved. Of course, this is down the line, but Ted did Charlie's first. Ted actually set up most of the first gigs, the first tour through the Midwest and everything.
Hmm.
That's when I'm jumping ahead, but that's when Twin Tone sort of got interested, sets
Right.
things up that way.
Right.
But also, then later on, Richard Shelter got involved and did a really extensive tour across the country. But anyway, so then we had to learn about manufacturing records, and there was this place called Alpha that did singles and albums and everything. So that was a lot of fun.
What
And
town was
then,
Sorry, what town was Alpha in?
I want to say Fort Lauderdale, Pompano. I think Pompano actually. Pompano.
Okay. And that sort of harkens back to the time when there were lots and lots and lots of pressing plants,
Right.
like everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
we pressed our first record, The Broken Talent, single at a place in Hialeah, Miami Tape.
Right.
The thought of that nowadays is it's pretty hard to comprehend.
Yeah. There might be what, one or two pressing plants in the country. I don't know.
Yeah, they're sprouting up a little bit more, but it's not like the old days when they had a pressing plant in almost every
Right. Every
locale,
locale.
anyway,
Yeah.
if not town.
So anyway, and then of course then we had to send out all the records to all the different people that were going to review them, and we got reviews from New Musical Express and Melody Maker over in England, and I don't know if Cream ever did or Rolling Stone, but a lot of other Maximum Rock and Roll did, and but we really set up a lot of relationships with a lot of different people across the country. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really great fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we were ordering from distributors so that way we could send our records to them to have them distributed. So it was pretty cool.
Right.
Back
So
and forth.
from the get go, you were pretty much determined to put Charlie Pickett, since he was your first artist, to
Yeah.
put him on a much bigger stage than what South Florida had to offer.
Sure, sure. Why not? See how far it could go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. And it went pretty well.
Pretty far. Pretty far.
Yeah.
It's been keeping Charlie busy for many, many years.
That's right. That's right. I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Charlie on a few occasions, and that's only within the last probably 7 or 8 years. I was just reflecting that I only started touring in earnest as a solo acoustic punk rock guy 10 years ago. So every time I've shared the stage with Charlie has been sometime within the last 10 years. So he's still at it. He's still playing.
Yep,
He's
he's
still
still
rocking. So
playing and recording. You know, Richard Uloa has put out his latest album on Y&T Records.
there you go. Rich Aloha, one of the other great
Mm-hmm.
South Florida record stores,
Yep.
yesterday and today.
Yep. Yep.
Big shout outs to you, Rich.
So that was, yeah. So
Cool.
he's still recording, so it's really good.
Right on.
Yep.
So,
But then, okay, so we put out Charlie, and then we were going to put out the Bob's EP, which is a whole
oh,
nother story. Safety Net put it out finally, but if you have some of the early Bob EP, it was a very strange little art. I think it was Kevin McIver's art. This little dancing figure on the front. If you peel the back, there's stickers back there. You'll see that it said Open Records under there. But that's another story for another time.
That's a very long story
Yeah.
for quite a different time.
But we all right.
I was just gonna say too. Not this is the Bobs from South Florida, not to be
Yeah.
confused with the a cappella
Ugh.
group called the Bobs.
Who probably stole our Bob's name. Vince, but when that fell through, I think we were like going, well, there's a lot of other bands out there, so why don't we put out the call and see if we could do a compilation? Because we wanted to do a representation of South Florida. And uh, so our dear friend Bill Ashton was very much involved. He really, it was definitely part of his project as well.
And that's
And
Bill Ashton from Safety Net Records, as
right,
mentioned
later on,
before.
yeah.
Took over the Bob's EP. I'm
Mhm.
just gonna fill in all the
Please
little
do,
blanks
please do.
here.
Right.
Okay.
And he was very involved with the chant and with that group of folks. But anyway, so golly, how did this all happen? We were all sitting around talking and everything, and maybe because we had carried a lot of compilations at the store, and we just said, well, all these other parts of the country are putting out their compilation. We should do one for our section of the woods.
Indeed, and I
Our
can
neck
think
the
of a
woods.
few from that era. There, like from Akron, Ohio, there was a couple called Bowling Balls from Hell.
Right,
In
right.
San Francisco, they had one called 415 Music.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Probably more coming out of New York City than you can shake a snake at. There's
Right,
tons of those.
right, right.
There's one called I think Big Hits from the Midwest, which had a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
cool the name of the album being quite a misnomer. It was like all underground punk
Right,
and whatnot
right.
type
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so there's like this tradition of regional compilation albums, which actually goes back all the way to the 60s,
Sure.
when every region had their own scene and kind
Yeah.
of by extension their own
Yeah. Well,
punks and whatnot.
this was our time to do it. And so we did. We somehow we put out the call, probably with the rag,
Oh,
that somewhat fanzine or music zine of the rag, and we just put the call out everywhere we could, and basically said to bands, send us a tape. And we had a huge plastic bag of tapes. I mean, they kept pouring in, pouring in, pouring in. So what would happen is we finally divided them up. Ted took some, I took some, Bill Ashton took some, and we would just go home, and listen to them and see what. Now, of course, I have to say, we were prejudiced. There were definitely some bands that were all automatically going to be on the compilation. I mean, well, I mean, we'll go through them and everything, but of
yeah.
course, Charlie, duh, and the E, duh, but a lot of the other ones were, they, we had our favorites, and so we wanted to represent them because they were of the South Florida scene. I must say that we actually missed a couple as well. We didn't get the reactions, and we didn't get the cichlids.
Oh, that's right.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
those are glaring, misses. But
But those bands were kind of done by the time you put the compilation together, if I remember my history correctly.
well, the cichlids were held under a pretty tight rein with Robert Mascaro anyway, and I don't think there was anything that he wanted to let go. I don't know exactly, but anyway, they didn't get on.
Right.
But anyway, so we would go home and we would listen to all the tapes and everything, and there was as Bill Ashton says on the back of there was every type of level of quality that you can imagine. From barely discernible to so super slick that we're wondering why anybody would send us, you know, a production or, songs like that. It was like, really? I don't think so. So we sort of fell in the happy medium of and of quality. And as the record, you can tell, like some are more produced than others.
Right.
But
I'm going to mention too. There was one band who did not make the cut, and that was the Abusers, who
mm,
were one of South Florida's, and I think they were probably a little too hardcore
mm,
for what you guys are trying to do.
mm,
But I remember that Ted gave me the Abusers cassette that had been sent in, and to me, the Abusers are really special because they were the first band on the first hardcore punk show I ever saw. The Abusers, Roach Motel, Saccharine Trust, and Black Flag, which I've of course talked about on Tent Talks Tunes. And if you go to my YouTube channel, let's get this up close and personal. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and dig through the archives if you want to hear a lot more South Floridian bourgeois, including the tale of my first ever punk rock show, Black Flag, at Finder's Lounge in Hollandale, with the Abusers opening. You were there. You took that picture, which
yeah, well,
anybody
yeah,
can hear about if you find that old episode. But the Abusers, I was so
yeah,
psyched.
yeah.
Ted was like, "What, that thing?" And so it was
Like I
actually.
said, we had our prejudices, I mean, but what was interesting was that once this came out, it really inspired other people. There are a lot of compilations of all different kinds of music from South Florida, so that
Yeah,
was a good thing.
yeah. It was definitely the first one I remember and I knew anything about. So why don't we go through this
Okay.
and let's talk about. I mean, as you can see, if you look at the back cover there, we got a lot of bands on there,
Yep.
including some real critical seminal stuff.
Yep.
Starting off with side one, track one, The Eat.
They eat. Yeah. Of
Mm,
course,
mm, mm,
they
mm,
absolutely
mm, mm, mm.
my well, what can you say about the eat except that they are timeless. They are so amazing. We made sure even if you didn't feel good, you went out to see the eat. If the eat were playing, Ted and I were there, no matter what, because you never knew what was going to happen. Because Eddie and Michael, the brothers, were so funny, so sharp, so I mean, it was it made you laugh, and it was joyful music, fast rock and roll, fabulous, just fabulous, and the in between chatter with Eddie's New York accent was just priceless, and with Chris pounding on the drums back there, and then you had Kenny Lindahl on bass, and you also had Glenn Newland on bass, so you never knew which bass player was going to show up that night either. I guess there were time periods, but
Hmm.
you guys will have to fill me in exactly because I think Kenny was the first Eat bass player. I think.
Probably because the first Eat record I got was God Punishes the Eat, and Glenn Newland was the bass player on that one.
Mm, yeah, because but Glenn played with them at the Irish House and some of the earlier stuff too. So
Well,
Glenn was right up there, right in there. But
who
anyway,
knows?
but we knew that the Eat had to start off the record because the, they were I think just about the best South Florida band ever. And so happily I got to pick the song. I put my foot down. I was usually very easygoing, always, but this is my ultimate favorite Eat song, I Led Two Lives.
Yeah.
Because how Eddie could pack in his autobiography in a very, less than what? How long is it? 2 minutes?
Probably maybe a minute and a half,
Minute and a
two
half,
minutes.
2 minutes, and yet, you know, boss wants to know why I'm always late. My hair's still purple as I walk through the gate. I mean, it
Mm.
slays me every single time. And the night before, I was sitting on a car, just like some drunken second rate pop star. I mean, it was just like on and on. And it was just wonderful lyrics, sharp, insightful, rockin', and you can dance to it. Fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah,
So that's my favorite Eat song, and it starts off the album.
appropriately so. And then side one, track two. There they are again, the
The
Bobs.
Bobs. Once Ted really, 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 really wanted to put out Charlie Pickett, and so did I. But then I said, okay, I get to choose the next band, and the Bobs were always the band that I was in love with, and so I said, let's put out their next, the next record will be the Bobs, and then it didn't happen, and the money disappeared, and I won't say who took it. But if anybody knows the Bobs, knows who I'm talking about, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, this one, Living Legend, I mean, we could have chosen so many different Bob songs, but that one was it's has Bob Roop on lead vocals. Bob Roop went on, he was, wow, he went on from the South Florida scene. Well, anyway, he was a mainstay of the South Florida scene. The Bobs were fabulous. They were sort of our version of the Police, maybe. All three, Bobby Tack, Kevin McIver, and Bob Rope. Actually, they were all Roberts, so thus the name the Bobs. But all three could sing. They could all harmonize. They all three of them could write. So I mean, they were a triple threat,
Yeah.
and they were a power trio and fabulous. And so, Living Legend that has Bob Roop on the lead vocals, and really everything's great. The chord changes, the music, everything's.
And just the level of musicianship, as you were saying, and this is the first thing I locked in on when I first heard them. First time I heard the Bobs, I didn't like them because they were so proficient. They
Mm,
were so good at what they were doing that my young, snotty, teenage punk rock mind dismissed them as being slick or commercial. Like I didn't understand the nuances. I
yeah,
didn't get that they were coming from a
yeah,
whole other area. I just heard that like these guys could play.
yeah, yeah.
To this day, I picked up a copy of the cassette only release that they did, I think through Safety Net. I got it a few years ago and played it for the first time. I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it.
And like let's see, Bobby Tack was always worked in strip clubs as a DJ and that sort of thing. So he had a. I mean, they all have colorful lives. Kevin McIver, fabulous artist. I mean, incredible artist. Loved sharks. Loved all sorts of aliens and just wonderful subject matter and material. I would just one of these days. It is my goal to have one of his paintings. So I pray somewhere along the line I'll stumble across one.
Right on.
And
We have to swerve just a little bit
yeah,
here. Mr. James Pogo from the fabulous band the Armdelight Rifles, who I like an awful lot from this area, has got a question.
okay.
Does Leslie know anything about an early 80s mod revival band called the Comets, who did 245s?
Doesn't strike a bell. Could have been around. What part of the state were they from? I don't know.
Yeah, James Pogo, what part of the state were they from? And from Dennis, down there in Alabama, I must say, gonna clarify this. This is actually a different Bob Roop. This is Bob Rupe, not Bob Roop. Completely unrelated to Bob Roop, the great professional wrestler.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to be confused.
No, 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 no. No. And well, girl, also a great thing about Bob Roop is besides being, handsome and stunning and play great, he could fix your car.
Right
So they
on.
all had hidden other talents.
Right on. I
So,
was gonna make a joke about another member of that band stealing your car,
oh
but
well.
I'm not gonna.
No, you don't
I'm
have to.
so not gonna do
Yeah,
that.
no.
All right, the Bobs, and then side one, track three, a band who I only saw live once
Yeah.
at a lunchtime concert at
Mhm.
Miami-Dade Community College,
Mhm.
the Rubber
Yeah,
Thongs.
Rubber Thongs. They were customers of ours that would come in. John Paris and Lynn Ballard. She played drums, and those two were a couple, and they would come in and play, and very quiet, and but they sent us a tape, and it was really good. We really enjoyed it. They didn't play out very often. They were good pop band, good. Um, just one of those people that just wanted to make music, and the band was really fun. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I remember they were probably the first band I ever saw that played synthesizers on stage.
Mm,
Besides Devo or something like that. But they
yeah.
were I just remember they were in this like the outdoor cafeteria section of Miami-Dade playing this really, I thought, really cool synth, for the lack of a better term, synth pop music. Basically nobody there, and the few people that were there weren't paying any attention except me. I loved them.
Yeah.
And I saw they were
Yeah.
on this record, and they managed to squeeze out
Yeah,
145,
they have a 45, yeah.
which is also really good if I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
Right on. Rubber Thongs, if you're out there, salute.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. James Pogo says the Comets were from Florida, but that's about all we know.
Sorry, doesn't strike a bell.
Okay. After the Rubber Thongs, here's a name that I used to see a lot when I was a kid
Mhm.
in the Rag magazine and
Mhm.
maybe some other publications. Cats on Holiday.
Cats on Holiday, great band. They were from very South Florida and South Miami, in fact. They played down there at a place, Keg South, and some of the other. These were friends of Ted, and in fact, we'd go visit them at their house and everything. In fact, I have a very fond memory of coming in Sunday morning after their night of debauchery, Saturday night of craziness, so they're all sprawled out in their living room. But on the stereo was the Talking Heads, and we walked in, and the song was "Take Me to the River," and that was the first time I had heard it by the Talking Heads, and I was just absolutely blown away, floored, and it was such the perfect Sunday morning song after the Saturday night craziness. This was like church Sunday
Right,
morning,
right. You know,
by the Talking Heads, and Cats on Holiday. These were the guys.
right. I'm just going to make another one of those swerves. I,
Hmm.
too, remember clearly the first time I heard Take Me to the River by the Talking Heads. It was during that magic window when 103 She and K102 had gone new wave,
Oh yeah.
and they played that song a lot.
Hmm.
And it's one of those songs that I'd never heard anything like that before.
Right.
It was
Right.
that was something
And that
new.
version was great.
Yeah.
And Cats on Holiday featured Ray Harris, who went on to be in the band Z Cars.
Mhm.
Z Cars, we would say, but it is Z Cars, pronounced Britishly. The
Yeah,
British
yeah,
way.
so much it is.
But that's the connection there. And but Cats on Holiday, rollicking good band. The name comes from a Kinks album, which is the check it out on there.
Muswell
Hillbillies.
Hillbillies.
Yep. Yep.
Hey,
So we
right
have a
on.
Kinks connection there. So they were a rollicking good band. Ezra Pike and that whole crew. Great fun.
Still not enough to make me wish that I liked the Kinks, but it's not.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
All right.
Sorry.
Well.
Never got the Kinks.
Mm.
I still don't get Miriam. I know that I'm sorry. I just don't get the Kinks. I never have.
Some Kinks I like mostly, but anyway.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Different topic for
Different
a different
topic. Yeah.
episode of Ten
But
Talks.
Cats on Holiday had to come in because they were definitely the South Miami band. Really, they were pub rock band even before the Z Cars, and they really they did the work. They played sets. They mixed in standards with their own music, so it was great fun.
Right. And pub rock, it's one of those types of music you really had to experience live, I think.
Oh, absolutely. That's the
Yeah.
only way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the high energy,
Or
the sheer attack.
yeah,
you know.
or if it's live, live album, you can
Right.
approach, but you have to be there.
Yeah. All right, Cats on Holiday. Next up, woohoo, a very controversial, or to use the British vernacular, controversial, I don't know how to say it, F.
F, because there's two F's.
In my book, there's really only one F.
Okay.
Just saying. It happens to
Okay.
be the F that's on
Oh, well, that's good.
The Land of Time Forgot.
Oh, good.
And
Good.
the F that continues to play to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this F. I saw
Okay.
your vision.
In a three-car collision. Yeah, Angelo, Flash, this is for you.
This is you.
This is fabulous, and thank you for writing earlier to explain that this song was the first song that you guys recorded, and you still perform it to this day. So that's amazing, and it's wonderful. It brings up visions of Alice Cooper and all that, and it's I love the horse beat, the cantering, the galloping,
Yeah.
dun, 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 and and the effects on your voice and everything. It's really great.
Yeah, these guys are a bunch of punk rockers verging on hardcore, but they could play.
Yes,
They could
yes,
really play.
definitely. I mean, I think that that's probably the closest we get to, uh, the hard rock. They were the representative of the hard rock pretty much
Yeah, as
on
it
this
says
on this.
in the liner, it's raw heavy metal with a punk attitude or punk and heavy metal clothing, recorded on a home cassette deck for the sake of authenticity.
Yeah, there you go.
Love that
Yep,
DIY.
yep, yep.
Love it.
It's great, great stuff. And they're playing to this day, so it's fabulous. In fact, when I was visiting Brita and Flash before I came up here, wow, Flash, he drove over to Fort Myers to rehearse with his band. I mean, that is really dedication.
From where?
From Fort Lauderdale.
Whoa! Yes,
Fort
that's
Lauderdale, that's across the state.
mm, mm,
That's
mm, mm.
that's hours on Alligator Alley and everything, and yeah, because they were getting ready to do some recording and some gigs. So it's
What you
great
got to
stuff.
do. I
Yeah,
just came back from my
Charlotte.
13 and a
Yeah,
half hour one-way drive to Charlotte to play with the almighty Anti-Scene,
yeah.
who I should mention, the gigs we played this past weekend in Spartanburg and Charlotte were tip-top, flame-throwing barn burners. If you were there, you know.
Yeah.
If they were there, they know.
I would have been there, but I was house sitting,
House
taking care
sitting.
of Harry the cat.
Yep, Harry the cat, who's been making himself even more scarce than usual.
Yeah,
But
well,
he's around.
yeah, he'll show up.
Yeah, he'll show.
He shows up at least once a day.
Right on. So thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you for
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Next time I'll actually come to your gig though.
it. All right.
Yeah.
That's the spirit. All right, F. And then actually a very great follow-up from F into one of maybe my single favorite song on this record, Turn Off Your Radio by
Yep.
The Essentials.
By the Essentials. The
Great.
the Power Trio first version of the Essentials, and Walter Chahowski and Mr. Murtha, and this other guy Steve Sincere, who yeah, Pete Moss was drums and vocals and everything. Pete Moss basically played with every band in South Florida. He was the musician's musician. Show him an instrument, he will make it sing. It doesn't matter if he blows it, if you pick it, if you pound on it, whatever, he could do it. And he was the original drummer for the Essentials. And this is power pop at its peak, shall we say?
I would not disagree with that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so good. And you know what? I should mention the between F and the Essentials, you had a lot of overlapping personnel, like guys who later went on to be in the Gay Cowboys in Bondage, and the other version of F, and God, I think maybe even the Eat figured in there somehow with like a later version of it. There's quite a pool of talent we had in South Florida.
Sure, sure.
Real talented guys and gals who could do the punk rock thing, but with real aplomb.
Yeah.
It's funny for how isolated we were down there, especially at that time. I mean, I was always very aware of being at the very bottom of this endless peninsula where Atlanta was like somewhere way off in the distance where, all the action allegedly was. So we were, well, here. We were there.
Yeah.
The rest of the world
Was there. That was the South. Atlanta was up there somewhere.
way up
And
there.
that, just Bill Ashton even says so on here. He says, and when The Clash, Talking Heads, and Susie announced the itinerary for their American tours, hundreds of Floridians rushed to get their tickets to Atlanta because that's as far south as they would come.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to drive 12 hours to go
Right.
up there to see our favorite bands at that
Mhm.
point. And we did it a lot.
How well I remember.
In fact, I did it a lot with Jim Johnson, who later became an Essential. Yes. And the Chant, actually, the Chant, and Walter, and Jeanette, and that whole crew and everything.
Yeah, but yeah,
Michael
that's true.
Galloway.
The Essentials basically, in so many words, morphed into the Chant.
Oh
as
yeah, yeah,
time
yeah.
went
Oh,
on.
definitely, definitely. And they were our Paisley Underground flag carriers and all things pop, and they brought in a lot of melody, but they backed it up with a lot of power chords. So they were a very strong band.
Yeah.
They played Flynn's a lot, and it was
I
great fun.
saw them at Flynn's
Yeah.
in like December, November of 1984, when I was just cutting my teeth and starting to go to clubs and see live bands,
Yeah.
and the Chant were
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Love those guys. Love those guys. So here's one. I know nothing about this group at all. Da Boys.
The boys,
Da Boys.
and you know what? We don't know. I don't know anything really too much about them either, except they are from Fort Pierce,
Of all
and
places.
they're. I know it's great, and but this one had a very particular sound, and it didn't sound like anything else we were listening to, and in fact, it had sort of a psychedelic edge to it in a sort of swampy rock way. A good boy southern rock psychedelia. I don't know. I mean, it had all those touches to it, and we said, okay, we need that on this record, so we did.
They never did anything else, did they?
Not that I know of. And
Right.
if you guys are out there, if you guys, anybody out there knows anything about Da Boys, please let us know.
Right there. Da Boys. Right there.
Let me name who was on here. Da Boys. Richard Mack, Andy C, spelled Cee, Michael Baum, Baum, Frederick Bernardo, Howdy Ken Basil, Bisel, Bissell, and additional drums and vocals by Norman.
Oh, Norman.
Well, there you go.
Norman.
He
All
probably
right.
made the band.
Enough
Anyway,
said.
so that was just one of our one-offs, but we loved it.
Right on.
And then if we start with the Eat, then we have to end with Charlie Pickett on the first side. And what to choose? Golly, Phantom Train. This was a special version. Uh, it was a different version. Charlie was playing around with his vocals. He was trying a sort of a yodel, shall we say, sort of a falsetto, just to give it a different, you know, old blues sort of. He was trying for something, and it gave it a very unique sound. This was the best version, pretty much, of the power version of Charlie Pickett and the Eggs. It was Charlie, of course, Charlie Pickett, and then the wonderful Johnny Sultan on lead guitar, David Froschneider on bass and vocals, and of course Johnny Sticks on drums, who was rock solid and amazing, and that band was amazing.
They were good. Another one of the bands that I used to love to go see whenever I possibly could, and I've
Yeah.
described them before as being really at the heart of the matter of just a bunch of cowboys from Dania, but with so much attitude and
Yeah.
so much grit.
Yeah.
And they loved all the right stuff. Like when nobody knew who the Velvet Underground were, or the Flamin' Groovies, or some of the more obscure blues guys, these dudes were out there playing it.
Well, they especially Johnny Sultan, but Charlie, all of them really, because they loved the roots of rock and roll, and they knew it. It was imbibed in them. I mean, Johnny Sultan, it was the only thing he could do, and I mean, he lived, moved, and breathed music,
Right.
and especially blues and rock, and I mean, they could talk for hours. And one of the charming stories that Richard told me was on the big tour. You know, he'd talk for hours to these guys about different records and who influenced who, and the blues guys, and the constant argument about Beatles and Rolling Stones, and in that van, believe me, the Rolling Stones won. And but respect was given to the Beatles because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And but these guys all knew their stuff. They knew the current music, but they knew the deep roots of where the music came from, and it lived through them.
And as you said, Johnny Sultan was not the kind of guy I could ever imagine working a job of any sort anywhere. It just
No,
wasn't going to happen with this
no,
guy. It had to be a guitar on the stage
yeah,
or nothing.
yeah, yeah,
All right, so that takes us to the end of side one. So
yeah.
let's, there you go, kids. That's side one of The Land That Time Forgot. Let's flip it to side two. And one of my very favorite bands, side two, track one. Another band who I just loved
Yep,
seeing live and who I saw
yep,
live at Open Books and Records
yep,
at least once, maybe twice.
yep.
Larry Joe Miller, and on this case, his Rhythm Rockets.
And yeah, he had different names. Yeah, the Rhythm Rockets, the Rockabilly Rockets. Larry Joe Miller, again, bless him, bless him, bless him. He is a man who lived many lives. He in Texas. He was in a band called the Thingies from the '60s. They put out their own record and everything. I mean, they were all part of that whole '60s garage movement. He was part of it, and then he went through. He a cat. I mean, 9 lives at least. He was a computer programmer, operator. I mean, he could write programs, he could fix your computer, he could set it up. I mean, everything like that. He was an artist. He taught people printing and painting and to express themselves. I mean, this man was a true Renaissance man. He was a jewelry maker. He married his muse, Amy Miller, and just, I mean, anytime when we would put on shows and we had a spot that needed filling or whatever, I'd call up Larry Joe and he'd always come. In whatever incarnation his band was in, he came and he showed up and he played and everybody loved him. Loved his music, loved him because he played music that really made you happy. You know, rockabilly, it got you moving. You were dancing and you didn't even know what, I mean, your body was dancing before your head caught up, you know. And his stuff is just wonderful. He put out the Thingies, but he also put out 7 inches and all sorts of stuff. I mean, and so many different people played with him. He was so generous with his talent and was sharing his knowledge. Pete Moss played with him. Uh, Golly, I mean, Johnny Six played with him. I mean, lots of different people played with him, and he was fabulous, fabulous man, really
Yeah,
great.
I was intimidated by those guys. I remember one time they played at Open Books and Records,
Yeah,
and they were, I mean, they were doing the whole rockabilly thing before the Stray Cats,
right.
you know, and all that. They were for real.
Oh yeah, roots rock.
And there were these dudes with the cowboy boots and the slicked back hair and the quiffs, and Mad Dog Smith playing the upright
Yeah, yeah,
bass,
yeah,
and
yeah.
James Rowe on that hot rod guitar.
Uh
I didn't know what to make of them. I was just like, oh my God, this is too much. I don't know if I can
Yeah,
handle this. But they
yeah.
were so good. They were really good. Six Pretty Girls in My Black Limousine is
Limousine,
my
yeah,
personal favorite with
yeah.
Rocket and Little Rock on the B side.
Uh-huh.
Love that record.
Mhm.
Permanent part of the MT collection. James Rowe, I don't know if you're watching out, but if you are, hello and thank you. Thank you for doing what you did and do and are doing.
Yay!
Yay! All right.
Absolutely.
That was Larry Jonah. Here's one. This a band whose name I've seen around just a little bit, but I know very little of.
Okay.
The
Breathers,
Breathers. Who are the
breathers.
Breathers?
Well, Rick Harper was a customer, and he would come in. He was a session guy, and he played with. I think he played at Criteria, and but I don't know all the ins and outs of it. And the other members of his band were also session players. They backed up a lot of people. I will go out on a limb and say maybe they even played with like Wayne Cochran or with it, whoever big name would come into town, and they would need some people to back them up and everything. And I think Rick Harper and his other band members here would I don't recognize the name. Tom Staley, Hose Fleming, Eric Overholtz, and Rick Harper. Rick Harper was
Mm,
really sweet. He would, he came to the store often, and we'd have a lot of fun talking and everything. And he brought us this song, and it was a nice ballad and sort of and a rollicking tune. It was one of these sort of, I guess I call it a walking tune. You know, it had sort of it moved along. It wasn't a ballad per se, but it was just a good sort of a country twang, sort of just, but really good.
right on.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you mentioned Wayne Cochran.
Mm,
You know, one of the original South Florida musicians, often described as the White James
there
Brown,
you go.
who later opened up a ministry. And I remember his church was somewhere around 27th Avenue, maybe 37th Avenue. If you're driving east on the Palmetto Expressway, you could look to the right and see this little, like, you know, one floor shopping center with Wayne Cochran Ministries, dial 62 Jesus. And I always wanted to go in there because it was Wayne Cochran, but
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
Yeah.
I was not gonna walk into no damn church. No way. Ugh, I kind of wish I had actually. We got a question from Mr. Malinowski. Is that the same Tom Staley from NRBQ?
I believe you are correct, sir. Yes, because what fans of NRBQ will recognize Tom Staley as the group's original drummer, and the rest of the Breathers have extensive credits as sessionmen. Yep, you are well played.
Right
Very
on.
good.
Score one for Willimantic Records. Yes.
Yep,
Excellent.
that is the same thing.
I haven't gotten around to the pitch yet, but I do have copies of this for sale.
Oh yeah.
Just saying. You know where to find me. Hey, that was the Breathers. Here's another
Yeah.
one. Who the hell? Who's
Locals
Magic?
only, Magic
Magic.
again. You know, a lot of these were one-offs. I mean, I didn't go. I don't know if the Breathers ever played out. I don't know if Magic ever played out. They might have. But it was locals only, and it was a song that went through many permutations. It starts off as sort of this hokey, sort of like a jaunty little thing, and it goes through this other uh, section of music and everything, and ends up on a nice cold stop. I mean, it's real fun, and it's all about surfing and locals, and I don't really know too much about them, but it
Yeah.
fit. You know, it was different. It was a different sound, so we we put it on.
See, that's the
It
true
lives
spirit.
on.
Yep, the
Yep.
spirit of real independent, cutting edge music and entrepreneurial record releasing. Love it.
Gave him a chance.
All right, now we mentioned earlier about the sort of interlocking boards of directorates with a lot of these bands.
Oh yeah.
Here's a real good example.
Yep. The Spanish Dogs.
Spanish Dogs. Wow.
Boy, I think probably almost. Did every musician in South Florida go through their doors? I mean, it was. There was of course the basic unit of the Spanish Dogs, which is on this record here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But boy, it spawned many different bands. It was like, well, anyway, a lot. Every member of the band started another band,
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, just
You know.
anybody who's from South Florida will know these names: Mike
Yep.
Kennedy, Randy Ruffner, Mike Chatham. Don't know who Safari Giacovino is. Pete Moss. Don't know who Cynthia Penn is either. It's some kind of
Ruby
pseudonym.
Cadillac.
Ah, okay. There you go. So that's like 5 out of 6 members of this band who were in other bands, which in turn begat other bands,
Bands
and so
and
on and
yep,
so forth.
yep.
Spanish Dogs have one of my very favorite records from South Florida. I don't know if it's the Don't Pet the Sweaty Things EP, but it's the one that has I Don't Want to
Right,
Go to Cleveland on it.
right. Randy, one of Randy's great ones.
Great
Yeah,
tune. And another
they're
one that
all
I
good.
heard on
Yeah.
Radio Free Living Room for the first time.
Don't
Want
wanna
to
go
go
to
to Cleveland, never, never, never go to Cleveland. Cleveland's not real pretty, but there's something about that
That
city.
city.
God, what a great song, man. Analog synthesizers. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yep,
Salute to the Spanish Dogs for that one alone.
yeah, yeah,
Boy, they.
yep.
Now, here's a band I remember being with the Chant People after a gig that they played in Gainesville, Florida in 1985. And we all got together at, I think, Skeeter's all night Southern cooking breakfast joint. And there was a guy who joined us for the post gig meal who everybody at the table like had immense respect for. Lots of deference to this dude. And I was like, who is this guy? Turns out he was the dude from the next band on the record, the Vulgar Boatmen.
Mm-hmm.
Vulgar.
Vulgar Boatmen. There
She
we
can
go.
say it.
Yeah,
I can't. The
yeah.
Vulgar
Well,
Boatmen from
yeah,
Gainesville.
yeah, yeah.
What do we know about them?
Well, at that, they were, as Bill says on here, every record has to have your art school band, and this was the art school band. They
Hmm.
were all artists. And but the person that came out that Malcolm is alluding to is Walt Salas Humara, who went on to form the Silos with Bob Roop, R-U-P-E, you see,
Right.
and continued with his artwork to this day. And he, in fact, look him up on Facebook, on his site and everything, or on the web, because he has done a series of horses that is pretty, they're abstract, but they're amazing. And he started a new series on elk. But anyway, he is a fine artist. Um, a lot of painters on this album.
Hmm.
A lot of Kevin McIver, Walter Salas-Humara, and Yeah, so Vulgar Boatmen were a mainstay up in Gainesville. They played a lot up there, and Walter went on to do other things, but he's around today being an artist.
Right on. And did the Vulgar Boatmen do a record besides?
Don't know, maybe, probably,
I
but
kind
I'm
of want
not.
to say no. I've never seen one.
Yeah, I
I've
don't know.
never seen anything.
But of course, Monkey Jungle Breakdown, great. You know, that's what Florida was so great for, is that all the touristy, you know, long before Walt Disney. I mean, they
Mm,
were out in California, but Carrot Jungle, Monkey Jungle. I mean, these places were amazing.
sure. Coral
Coral
Castle,
Castle, the oh
Serpentarium.
man,
Oh, the
right on the tip
Serpentarium.
of my tongue, right there. Man, those were places to go see.
Yeah, that's real roadside America right there,
Yeah,
kids.
and it always cracked me up that here was this band from Gainesville because they had their roots in Miami and everything, but Miami, they keep yelling out. Monkey Jungle Breakdown is great, great stuff.
Next up, the penultimate song on the album, a group from Tampa called A New Personality.
Well, we had to have some sort of, this was our new wave group, dare I say, sort of, and it's a very delicate trio, another trio favorite. I like the trio.
Mhm.
And this had a little bit of synthesizer and a little bit of, that sort of sparse musical line with sort of a dancey, new romantic, slight, feel to it, a taste of. So and they're from Tampa, and I believe they played out quite a bit over there, and I think they put out a record or two, but
And they did at least one
mhm,
7-inch EP. It's got a really cool song on there called What I Lost
there you
that
go.
I like, which is like a really gloomy, melancholic, sort of rainy day sort of song, of which I was extremely fond of at the time. And I don't know if they ever played the east coast of Florida or not, but
I don't know. I
who
don't know.
knows? Who knows? Fine band. And how does one wrap up the land
With
that time forgot?
how? Yep,
The front.
the front board again. What to say about the front? Hmm. They always put on. They were. Ooh, and this is where I'll skate over in your next sort of your turf. I always considered them sort of Devo-ish.
Oh, well, my favorite
Ish, ish,
word.
ish, ish. Yeah, because heavy on the synthesizer. I mean, powerful power chords. Great front man. Um, great pop songs. Sort of futuristic type ish lyrics and everything, and uh, so we had to include them. They were just really really good, and Greg McLaughlin. I mean, again, artist. Support him. He puts his artwork up on the web every now and then, and I have one of his paintings. It was Lester's Diner. I'm so happy
Mm,
to have that.
hmm.
It's whimsical, but it shows a place that I spent many a happy hour. So it's a really, I just love looking at that painting, and he's really good. So
Yeah.
big shout out for him, and his band, the front, and he's re-releasing a lot of his music from that time. All records are great. He does a great job packaging them, and the music's really good.
I
So
will vouch for that. The music
mhm,
really is good.
it is.
Like when you talk about new wave,
Yep.
South Florida for sure, and even just in general, I rank them right up there.
Oh yeah.
That's a band that really should have gotten a lot more
Yep.
recognition than they
Yep.
did, but he's
Yep.
working on it now.
Yep.
So the front are very, very much worth checking out.
Yep.
And that's actually, we've been through
That's
side
it.
one
Yep.
and side
Side two.
two.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of this record. Like how many did you press? What was the
I think 2,500. I think was how many we pressed. At least 2,000.
hmm.
We had Alpha came to us at one point, and they said, "Well, we have some blue wax left. Shall we press some of those?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." Did you get any of those?
I have yet to
Okay.
see a blue vinyl copy of one of these
I
things.
keep talking about them. I have some somewhere. I'll have to dig them out and find them. That's another story. But anyway, Walter Chahowski, we would be
Yes.
very much amiss to Not mention he did this very fine, excellent cover. It is definitely worth looking over to find out all the little ins and outs of it. I mean, he put something in every corner of our wonderful little state here. And I mean, with all sorts of fun things. Fort Lauderdale, where the boys are, Key West, where more boys are. He has the Mariel Cuban, all the immigrants coming in, and monkey jungle and flamingos, and the pot being dropped off in the
Yes.
the Gulf there, and I mean, just a little bit of everything. He's brilliant. Walter was one of our artists, along with Patty Lighty and one of the Porter boys, early um, Randy and oh God, brain pause, the Porter boys. Anyway, he did a lot of our early artwork. Walter did a lot of our artwork, and Patty Lighty did a lot of our artwork.
Did
And
Patty used to do the Open Books and Records flyers?
absolutely,
Those were great.
I never looked better.
Those,
Thank you, Patty. Always, she made me look great. And the cat,
yes, AJ.
and Hal. She made Hal look good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Walter did the cover, and
And don't forget Walter Chahowski from The Essentials
from the
and The
Essential, another
Champ.
artist.
You got to make sure we know who's who here.
Oh yeah, and Bill Ashton made sure that everything. He was the one that basically got everybody together, and for the production and everything. Wonderful Bill Pro uh, laid it all out, and well, did the I think help me Walter. I think Bill did the no. I'm getting all mixed up here. Anyway, Bill Pro did a lot of the work on this, on the production of it. Sync Studios, that was Hal and Frank
Hal Spector, folks. Hal
and
Spector.
Frank Filestra. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
sir, for all that. Greg Baker, thank you so much for writing it up and making sure that a lot of these captions and everything got taken care of. And I would be really amiss if I didn't mention Carl Pickett, our angel, who is one of Charlie Pickett's brothers. He, I think, financed the whole thing. I mean, or helped a lot to get it off the ground. And so he's one of those unspoken heroes of the scene. And but yeah, so boy, it was just everything is. I just love this album. I was listening to it again today, and it sounds as great now as it did then. Pretty timeless. I think we did a good job.
I would agree. Leslie is more than welcome to toot her own horn anytime on Tent Talks Tunes or in the real world or whatever. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This record was a real turnaround for me. It introduced me to lots of new ideas and lots of new concepts. And so you're responsible for all this,
Oh,
Leslie.
good.
This
Oh, good.
is, you
All
people
right.
out there, this is a lot of this woman's fault.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
the one who did a lot of this.
Well, it was fun. I mean, the store was great, and we just, it was something. It was like a hub. It was a place where people could come to, and we could. We had such great music. Was just bursting music everywhere, and it was such a great place for people to come to and talk. And it was where we had. That was our living room. People would come and hang out and
Sure.
everything,
Sit
and
on the sofa, like
Mhm.
literally sit on the sofa,
talk,
listen
drink,
to
whatever they
records.
want,
Oh my God, yeah.
and everything. And so, yeah, it was great fun.
I remember, and a lot of people come to me, or when I'm talking to people, they say, the first thing I ever bought at Trash American Style, and they can tell me what it was. I can tell you the first thing I ever bought at Open Books and Records
Okay.
was, and I still remember walking into the Open Books and Records location in Progresso Plaza
Okay.
by the railroad tracks in
Our
Fort
second
Lauderdale.
location.
Second
Okay.
location. I walked in there, opened the door to that wonderful, funky old building,
Mm-hmm. Progresso Plaza, yeah.
and seeing the record store with its oblong layout,
Mm-hmm.
and looking up at the wall, and there to my left was a copy of Still by Joy Division, which had not been released in the U.S. and hadn't been released in the U.S. for a very long time, but you guys had it.
That's right.
And I plunked down my 10.95 to get the double LP import
What
of
such
it.
a deal.
And that was it. That was the beginning. And in fact, if you look, pardon me while I reach over you, don't mean to invade your feng shui there, but if you look at my copy of Feelin' by Charlie Pickett and the Eggs, that's got an original Open Books and Records price tag
Oh
there
yeah,
in the corner.
$1.50.
Ted Gottfried's handwriting, $1.50. Still got it. I just about wore out the sleeve on this one, so I made my own out of plastic cellophane.
Yeah.
But that's, Open was really, it was it. Open was
Well, we were carrying on the independent stores. I mean, we definitely took our there were other independent record stores before us, like Magic Minstrel and Twin Sounds down in Miami. That was South Miami. That was Ted's stomping grounds and everything. And of course, Vibrations and Specs and Uncle Sam's and then everybody that came up, Bob Perry, and Michael Dean with Yardbirds. Michael Dean's Yardbirds, and then Bob was his silent partner, and then of course Bob with Blue Note, that I became part of his family after Open closed,
mhm,
and then Richard Uloa, who took up the banner in South Miami, and his store lives on, and
yesterday and today,
with
baby.
Yesterday and Today, and with the label and everything, and anyway, brain pause again, but a lot of great record stores, lived in South Florida.
Yeah.
And it continues on. Like I said, Sweat is there, Revolution is there, and so
Radioactive.
I'm Radioactive. That's what I meant. Radioactive. Thank you. In Fort Lauderdale, and you know, good. Each generation needs to pick up the banner and carry on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys were flying the flag because this young reprobate from unincorporated Northwest Dade needed it. I needed it, and especially when you guys moved to North Miami Beach,
Yeah.
because then you were close.
Yeah, because I mean, we started off in Deerfield because it was, cheap rent. I think we paid like $200 a month for the first, for our first store.
Wow.
And
Now wait, where was Deerfield? If we're going to look at the map here, Deerfield
Deerfield,
was.
golly, no, not quite up that high. It was north of Fort Lauderdale.
All right, so that
Anyway,
that was practically terra incognita.
yeah,
You
I know.
know.
I mean, people. John Tovar said that he would come up with Carlos, who has Big Papa Records down in South America, down in Sao Paulo, and they would look at each other and go, "Okay, you ready? Let's go for a trek." And they would drive. I mean, it was an hour and a half at least up the road up to little Deerfield Beach, and that's where we started. And then we went to Progresso Plaza,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was great. And then once that location went into disrepair, we did a sideways move over into Wilton Manors, which was I call the hell location, which I think we were there for like maybe less than a year.
I never made it there,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which says a lot,
Everybody
you
was
know.
was glad. Most people missed, but then we gave it one more shot, and we ended up in North Miami, which was probably. I mean, I love the first because it was the first. I love Progresso because it was so special.
Mm-hmm.
Hated the third. The fourth was where we roared. We really,
Yeah.
and plus we were better located. Because we were more centralized from the southern to the northern. People would come down from West Palm Beach and everything.
Yeah, I mean, right there at the intersection of I-95 and the Palmetto Expressway,
Perfect,
you
perfect
know,
location.
and across the street from Peaches,
Yeah.
the big
Which, by the way,
supermarket.
they went out of business
Yeah,
before we did.
they folded, and down the road from Vibrations, and eventually Blue Note moved in, and
Right.
Rankin Records,
Rankin
the
Records.
great
Yeah.
reggae store of South
Yeah.
Florida, they moved in on
Yeah.
167th Street for a little while. There was like a
Yeah.
real hub of record store activity
You
right there
could
in North
start
Miami
at one
Beach.
end and work and find something
Yeah.
from one end to the next. Yeah.
I used to love going to Rankin Records because he would get those reggae records like fresh, fresh from Jamaica. You
Uh-huh.
weren't going to find any better reggae records than at Rankin.
Right.
I miss that place. That was
Yeah.
really cool. What was the guy's name who ran it? Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
I do not remember. I could never understand a word he said. He was kind of like Jeremiah was a bullfrog, was a good friend of mine. I never understood a word he said, but he was a really cool, friendly guy. I knew that much.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to tell our frantic fans and loyal listeners?
I don't know. I feel like I should read some of the comments to see if did you see any other questions or anything
I
or
think we're kind of on top of things. Dennis Highland has astutely pointed out that the Vulgar Boatmen is a play on the Volga Boatman.
mm-hmm.
Yes, a good,
Mm-hmm.
nice
Yep.
literary artistic reference there. We've talked about Tom Staley. Barry Soltz, aka Barry Soul, says that he got to see Larry Joe Miller play a prison in South Florida thanks to Robert Mascaro.
Yep.
Barry, please post some of the details about that. That's a story that we need to hear. That sounds really good.
Yep.
Patty, oh, I miss
Miss
Larry
Lee Joe,
Joe.
yep,
Yeah, we
we all
do.
do.
Nick
We certainly
Sampson.
do.
Nick Sampson commenting on the fact that the anti-scene shows were two great shows. You were right, sir. Glad you were there.
Yeah, and then let's see, Jeff Limlich, who knows all things rock and roll and music. That should be John Paris, Rubber Thongs,
Yeah,
okay.
in reference to that.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah, something else.
some,
Okay, that's right.
some of that thread about the Comets, South Florida
Well,
band who we know nothing
don't,
about.
sorry. Oh,
They're,
from Ocala, it
Ocala.
says. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Ocala?
I never
Wow.
got to see them. Don't know anything about them, sorry.
And
Let's
some of the
see.
Glenn Newland and the Eat, which we've talked about. And according to Jill, the area around Progresso Plaza is very happening with the kids now.
Well, good.
Cool.
It's and hi Rob. I see your hi there. Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Well, Progresso Plaza is a cool place. It used to be a brothel. It used to be a train station. The train goes right by there. And
And then we've got our opening comments.
okay.
So there you go.
Good. Okay.
And as we know, this episode will be archived on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Where'd that banner go?
There we go.
In case you were late to the party or missed some of it or just want to relive the glory again, go to the Malcolm Tent YouTube channel. I will have tonight's episode posted a little bit later. It's going to take maybe a wee little while, but it will be posted. And it, of course, will be on my Facebook page in perpetuity because it is our permanent record. You all know how that goes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, of course, have to mention I got The Land That Time Forgot. You might see multiple copies here. Why is that? Because I have multiple copies.
Buy them from Malcolm.
Yes, buy them for me, please. I want you to buy some of these.
Please.
I got sealed copies. I got open copies. I got copies.
Open copy.
Got my own personal favorites notated on one of the inner sleeves for radio play when I finally do get to be back on WNHU in West Haven.
Oh, when's that going to happen?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
But these are all radio favorites
Good.
that I have
Good.
played on my show.
Good.
And that's really about it, gang. Want to
Yeah.
thank everybody for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you
My
so much.
ramblings and thanks for filling in. And sorry for the brain pauses or whatever, but
It's all right.
golly, we had a great South Florida scene. It's still happening, but I think our tribe had something special, and
Yeah.
we the thing that is really great is that we keep in touch with each other even to this
Yes.
day. So that's an awesome thing, and the music continues on, and each generation has their own, section, their own peoples to go. But I don't know. I wonder, are the bands playing out? Where I don't know where they're playing. I don't know.
In South Florida?
Somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I only go there whenever someone books a show for me, and it seems like I play a different room every time I go down there.
Yeah.
You know, and I've played with some really great young bands in South Florida. First one I could think of is a band called Milk Spot, who I love. Bunch of wild young punk rock kids. Last time I played down there was with my band Ultra Bunny, and we played a storage unit, like a self-storage space somewhere in Fort Lauderdale. Somebody was living there, and their band would rehearse there,
Whoa.
and nobody cared.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
Well, Gay Cowboys and Bondage did that in a way too. I
That's
mean,
right.
they did a warehouse gig at least.
I remember
At least
that.
them.
It was New Year's. I remember that. New Year's Day, 1986, I want to say.
Wow.
It was Gay Cowboys, Morbid Opera. I think Broken Talent tried to play a short set.
Yeah. Why didn't we have Morbid Opera on our album?
This predates Morbid Opera, though.
Yeah, it does.
I'd say.
I guess or why didn't we have Teddy and the Frat Girls, you know,
Yeah,
and
or the Gay Cowboys, for
or
that
Gay
matter.
Cowboys,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know, just things, just
Well, it was a
we
generational thing, you know, because those
yeah
bands were all like 84,
yeah later
85.
on I
This is
get
like
yeah
81, 82. And,
yeah
you know,
yeah
two
yeah
years makes an awful lot of difference.
absolutely
And, you
that's
know,
true that's true
it's like literally an entirely new generation
yeah
in that short. And,
yeah
and at the time, it doesn't seem like it's that short of a period of time. You know, 2 years when you're that age is like, oh my God, it's 2 years.
forever long
I'm
yeah
not gonna live that long in 2 years. It's 1986. Why?
right
You can't even conceive of doing anything 2 years down in the future. So, like there was a there's a Florida cassette compilation called Florida Explosion,
right
which had all like a lot of the hardcore stuff
right
on it.
right
And my label TPOS, we did Florida versus the rest of the world and music to kill brain cells, but we could never afford to do vinyl, and that's why I think this one is so critical because it is actual pressed 12-inch vinyl, and you guys, you did it, you got it out there, and we all did, but something about records,
yep
something about the
yep
records. So
yep there you go.
thank you,
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
my
I hear
pleasure.
that I'm your first in live person, flesh and blood guest.
I've never had anybody but Harry the cat here at the Tent Talk Tunes
Well,
studios.
great. Well, thank
So
you. I am very honored to be here.
my pleasure. And if you do end up in Connecticut again, in front of the camera, we're gonna have to talk about the store,
Oh, okay.
Open Books and Records.
Sure.
That'll be number 2, and then the South Florida scene in general will be number 3.
Okay.
This could go on for a while.
Okay.
Just warning everybody out
All
there,
right.
warning you,
Yeah.
warning me. Well
I'll do
being
my
warned.
homework.
All
Try to
right,
remember things.
there you go.
I'll call up Jeff and both Jeffs.
All
What
you
happened
Jeffs.
then?
Yeah, right.
And Karen. And anyway, great. Thank
Love
you
it.
for having me.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks.
Keep your eye on the various social media, YouTube, my internet stores on Discogs and eBay. You can find Land That Time Forgot on Discogs for sure. For me, for sure. And that's about all I got. I literally drove in this morning.
He was very tired.
I played the shows in Charlotte with Anti-Scene, went to visit some friends in Raleigh, and then hit the road. And I rolled in at like 5 p.m.
Yep. Yep.
and it's 7 when we went on the air. So I am whooped.
I think he's going to crash pretty soon.
I think Leslie is right. So that means you got to be quiet when you're moving around the house. Just saying, I'm a man on edge. Ugh. All right, gang, I'm out of here. Thank you so very much. I do intend to be back in about 167 hours' time. So until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tense saying so long from the Nutmeg State.